Thank you. So Sister Zainab, she's 13 years old, Muslim American, coming from Rise Academy in the Bay Area. Her interests including writing, speaking, acting, and painting. She has always been passionate about speaking. However, this topic really stood out to her. Zainab has said, despite the number of times I repeat the speech, the words seem stronger each time. Let's welcome Sister Zainab with loud salawat to deliver her speech.
Respected scholars, dear brothers and sisters, and all Seattle families, Assalamu alaikum. So first, I would like to deeply thank Maulana Sayyid Abbas Elia for giving us this opportunity to be here and speak at this mosque. And I'm very thankful to all of you guys for taking out the time to listen to our speeches. So with that, please recite another loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'll never forget the day in 4th grade when we were all eating lunch inside the classroom. Suddenly, this boy raises his hand and he asks the teacher, "Shouldn't we hate Muslims because they're terrorists?" At that moment, I found myself burst into tears. I was just so embarrassed and heartbroken. And I thought to myself, is this what people think of the religion of peace? Not knowing that I was from Pakistan, 2 girls sincerely approached me and they go, "It's okay, Zainab, don't worry. I'm pretty sure he was only talking about the Pakistani Muslims anyway." As funny as this might be, although my topic today is about the religion of Islam, so many religions, cultures, and ethnicities are being stigmatized in today's world, and we need to address that. Brothers and sisters, my name is Zainab Abbas, and I'm a 13-year-old American Muslim coming from the Bay Area in California. So, show me your hands if any of you guys have ever been discriminated because of your belief in Islam, or have even gotten stopped at an airport, or even got stares as if you're doing something wrong. Please raise your hand. Okay, so I can see a number of hands from the audience. And as many of us are Muslims living in the US, there's a major problem that the majority of us face. Society views us differently. And although there are some positive views of Islam by non-Muslims, there are still many negatives. The negative connotation of Muslims viewed by a portion of society supported by the fear of the foreign is known as Islamophobia. This form of racism has risen since the events of 9/11, where all Muslims had suddenly started to be labeled as terrorists. Have you ever wondered why it's even called 9/11? The anti-Muslim think tanks planned way ahead in time. They purposely removed the year 2001 from 9/11 so that Islamophobic feelings still stay fresh in people's minds. In fact, I call it a planned genocide of Islamic ideology. Muslims across the US, even those who have lived their whole lives here, are easily seen as foreign. They can be perceived as a threat to Western identity and way of life. Islamophobes often label Muslims who have fallen to Western identity as good or moderate, whilst those who resist the Western cultural dominance as bad or extremist. Islamophobia is a type of stigma. In other words, the religion of Islam is looked down upon by some people. However, not only are Muslims facing the judgment by the outside community, but the sad part is that many of us are being stigmatized within our own Muslim communities, in the United States or abroad. What I mean by this is that too often we ostracize our brothers and sisters in Islam just because they aren't perfect. When it seems like the whole world is against you for being a Muslim, you shouldn't be turned away from your community due to shortcomings in your modesty, your prayers, or your actions. In effect, as brothers and sisters, instead of hating on one another, we need to help one another. Well, who are the Islamophobes, and what negative changes are they bringing? There's a term known as the Islamophobic industry, which refers to a large network of politicians, public figures, media outlets, policymakers, and just ordinary people in general that influence the Islamophobic conversation, usually for some economic or political gain. The industry influences public opinion, which in turn can influence politics such as voting patterns during elections. And a clear example of this was shown through our current president, Mr. Trump, who continuously criticized Muslims primarily to gain favors from previous Islamophobes, which created an anti-Muslim environment. Let's just read one of his tweets. On June 12, 2016, Donald Trump posted, "Is President Obama going to finally mention the words radical Islamic terrorism? If he doesn't, he should immediately resign in disgrace." I mean, this is unacceptable. And even after being elected, if any unusual incident occurred, Donald Trump, without knowing the facts, tended to tweet against Muslims. There are many other consequences of Islamophobia on American Muslims, such as differences in youth and education. Studies show that Muslim students are finding it increasingly harder to express their opinion and fully engage with the education system for fear of being stigmatized, stereotyped, or even penalized. Muslim identities are being securitized. You know, when you're that one Muslim family at the airport delaying the whole line from continuing on past security, I think we've all been through it. Muslims are repeatedly portrayed as a security threat across many circumstances, especially involving those areas of political conflict. Not only that, but some American Muslims are in a constant dilemma of having to choose between their American identity and religious position. So there was a popular phrase that was going around Twitter and other social media. It goes, "Too Muslim to be American, too American to be Muslim." It's so common for some Muslims to act a certain way in front of their own people or family, and another way in front of American friends. From my example in 4th grade, I didn't know if people knew I was Muslim or not, but all in all, I didn't want anyone to know I was Muslim. Islamophobia is a root problem for this. For the past few years, every month or so, you'd see a different headline on the news. Armed protesters gather around another Texas mosque. Man suspected of setting fire to mosque charged of hate crime. Muslim woman harassed at crowded restaurant. Nobody cares. Multiple shootings at multiple mosques in New Zealand. I mean, what happened to me in 4th grade is nothing compared to what some other Muslims in the US are currently going through. Now, some of you may be thinking, okay, well, what am I supposed to do about this? What is the point in telling this tale of oppression? This is not a tale of oppression. Instead, this is an opportunity for us as Muslims, as a society, as individuals, to bring awareness to these religious and social problems. For example, we can cause change by initiating values, such as racial and religious equality, by knowing our rights and how to implement them properly. As for the youth, like myself, we could use our social media to educate others and utilize our platforms for good use. Let the world know what Islam really teaches us. Not only that, but many of us need to strengthen our Islamic identity. I myself am a culprit of this, but I know that in this Western world, despite the hardships we will face, we need to be comfortable in what we believe in. In the end, actions speak louder than words. We need to bring continuous change into our lives so that each of us can become a true representative of Islam. Let's turn back to the pages of history to see how our prophets and the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam stood against the Islamophobes of their time. When the Prophet, peace be upon him, started preaching, the biggest Islamophobe at that time was Abu Lahab. The Prophet, peace be upon him, urged the Meccans to submit to Islam and become monotheists, while Abu Lahab followed him step by step, throwing stones at him, injuring him so that his feet were covered with blood. Islamophobia continues from the time of our Prophet to the time of Bibi Fatima salamun alayha, to the time of our 12 Imams, including our present-day Imam Mehdi, peace be upon him. Yet despite the cruel, false accusations, hardships, boycotts, and other inhumane methods used by the enemies of that time, the Ahlul Bayt and their true followers continued to guide the people and show them the path of eternal salvation and prosperity. The Islamophobes kept on showing their bigotry against the Ahlul Bayt and their followers. But as Allah states in the Holy Quran, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرَ الْمَاكِرِينَ. And the disbelievers plotted and planned, and Allah too planned, and the best of planners is Allah. In the end, some may ask, can we completely remove Islamophobia? Well, no, unfortunately we cannot. However, we, as Muslims of not just this generation, but every generation, need to learn and be equipped with how to defend justice for all, the truth, and the light of Islam. For the sake of our beloved Imams, for the sacrifices they made against oppression for humanity, and for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And inshallah, we as a community can all fix these issues together. Thank you.